Chapter 6. A Voice on the Wind. Springing out of the nest, Tiger raced along the branch until she reached the tree trunk. Then, without any forethought for her safety, she leaped to a lower branch pointing to where she thought the kitten sounds came from and ran to its end. She waited, her ears turning this way and that as she tried to locate the tiny voice. It came again, and it was closer. Tiger looked down to the ground far below. She did not feel any dizziness this time. Even the gentle bobbing and swaying of the branch had no effect on her. The kitten was comfortable with the movement and had little concern about the great drop beneath her paws. As darkness descended, Tiger considered whether she should return to the nest and wait until dawn, or try to reach the other kitten with what limited light remained. The distant mewing sounded pitiful, helpless even. It was as if they had given up hope and were merely going through the motions, not knowing what else to do. Whoever it was sounded far more frightened than Tiger felt. Therefore, it was her kittenly duty to get to them as soon as possible. Making a mental note of where the cries for help were coming from, Tiger brought all of her cat instincts into play as she navigated her way down the huge tree. The route down was perilous, and the distance between some of the tree's limbs proved too great for Tiger to leap. But that did not stop the determined kitten. Each time Tiger met such an obstacle, she used her claws to clasp the trunk and carefully shimmy around the bole until she was above her target. Then, after slowly climbing down backwards until she reached a suitable point, Tiger would twist around and launch herself directly at the branch below. Her footing was sure, and her confidence grew. The kitten soon reached the great boughs at the base of the tree. But even these were too high for Tiger to jump down safely. The bark here was also at its roughest, and it made it hard going on her claws. Tiger ignored the pain in her aching muscles and the tenderness in her toes as she backed down the tree one small step at a time. As she neared the bottom, Tiger turned around to face the ground. Then she ran down the trunk before launching herself out and away from the tree at the very last moment. The ground felt good, but she did not savour the feeling of terra firma beneath her paws. With the direction firmly fixed in her mind, Tiger scampered across the ground until she suddenly pulled up short as something tall and foreboding loomed out of the darkness. What was this? Tiger crouched low, hoping to not be seen. The pitiful meowing was nearby. Had this large thing ahead trapped a fellow feline? She would stealthily find out. Silently creeping forward, Tiger followed her ears. She was surrounded by noises and rustling, which made her ears involuntarily twitch. Hidden things were abroad this night, and she had no intention of being their supper. Concentrating on the soft sobbing sounds ahead, Tiger soon let loose a sigh of relief. The ominous figure was just a small tree, although calling it a tree seemed wrong to the kitten. Trees were supposed to be big, which this most certainly was not. Instead, she thought of it as a treeling and had nothing to fear from it. The kitten climbed the soft bark until she reached the lowest branch. She stopped and listened. Tiger was almost right under the crying now, but no matter how hard she looked, she was unable to see where it was coming from. She continued climbing. The muted meows and cries for help stopped, but Tiger could hear movement coming from the other side of the tree. With claws extended, Tiger climbed onto the trunk and made her way around it until she could drop down to the nearest branch. Tiger listened hard, her ears strained at every sound. Then she heard it. Something was on the branch with her. She could just make out an outline behind some leaves that were hanging down from a branch above. It was round and dark, and she could hear it breathing. Tiger stood tall, spiked her fur, and hissed at the dark shape. "Don't eat me," begged the hidden voice. Remaining as large as she could, Tiger demanded that they come out of hiding. She was shocked when the dark form tentatively pushed through the foliage. "It's you," she said excitedly. What are you doing up here, Shadow? Tiger, is that really you? Came a nervous reply. It is. Tiger relaxed and ran to her brother. She gave him a nose kiss. Whoa, steady, said Shadow. It's not safe up here. Tiger instantly scanned the area. Is that mean old owl here too? What's an owl? Shadow asked. It's a large bird, said Tiger, but not like other birds. It's a hunting bird, and it tried to eat me. Shadow looked up to the skies and meowed pitifully. His downcast ears told Tiger just how frightened he really was. What are we going to do? Sobbed Shadow. We're going home, and then we're going to have some of Mother's milk, Tiger said soothingly. I've been calling Mother all day, but she doesn't come. You've been up here all day? Tiger was astounded. Why? I can't get down, Shadow whimpered. And now you're stuck all the way up here too. Tiger looked down over the edge of the branch. It was too dark to see the ground, but she knew from her climb they were not particularly high. Before she could explain this to her siblings, Shadow said, I got up early because I couldn't sleep. Mother had told me I was ready to play with mice and learn the ways of catching rats. I was just so excited. I would be too. The thought of chasing mice greatly appealed to Tiger. I went into a corner to practice using my claws. It felt really good, but some got caught in the wall. Once I understood what had happened, I climbed to the top of our box and toppled over the edge. It was only a short drop. I looked around and realized I was actually out in the great beyond. It was amazing. Thinking back to when she followed her siblings out of the box, Tiger knew the exact feeling Shadow was talking about. Shadow continued. I ran around for a bit and noticed an area where the ground was much brighter. Something beyond a tall opening was creating a glow. I went to investigate and saw an even bigger place, and it was warm. I went through that too, Tiger said. Then something scared me and I ran and then I got lost. Same here, said Shadow excitedly. As I explored this outside area, two huge animals suddenly came out of nowhere saying, Arf, arf, woof. Then they saw me. Roog! They went. I ran and they chased. I tried to use the tall grass to hide, but they seemed to be able to use their noses to follow me wherever I went. That sounds terrible, Tiger said. Only one of those things tried to get me, and I got away by climbing up a huge tree. That's why I'm stuck here, sobbed Shadow. Those monsters tried to jump up and snap me right into their mouths. They even grabbed onto the lowest branch and broke it. Tiger breathed in deeply. She had no idea the woofers were so powerful. We have to get out of here before they come back, she said. But I can't. I don't know how to get down. I'm scared and I don't like heights. Don't be silly, Tiger said. You're Shadow, the biggest, the strongest, and the blackest of us all. That doesn't mean I like heights, Shadow snapped back, and I don't see why I should be the bravest anyway. Look, I'm the runt, and I've already been bashed through the air inside a frog's home. I've been attacked by a nasty red ant that made my paw burn, and a rogue monster chased me up a tree. I met some squirrels on my way up, and one of them showed me how to reach the top to see where I had to go. A nasty owl tried to eat me and some baby birds, but I protected them and scared it away. And that was in a tree much bigger than this little treeling. I could see everything from the top, and I know which way our home lies. How did you find me? Shadow asked. I could hear you from the big tree. All I had to do was follow my ears. Even though you found me, that's a pretty tall tale for one so small. Tiger slowly shook her head, but she did not let her brother's disbelief affect her. I'm going home, now. You can stay here or follow me. If you copy what I do, we'll be on the ground in no time. Tiger turned around without waiting for a response and used her claws to get a really good grip on the trunk. Like this, she said. Then one slow reverse step at a time, the kitten descended the tree as though it took almost no effort at all. Before she reached the ground, Shadow had overcome his fear and got himself onto the trunk. Tiger inwardly smiled. Her plan was working, and it was not long before her bottom touched the ground. That's it, Tiger encouraged. Just a few more steps. I did it, shouted Shadow as his back feet felt the earth. He did a little victory dance. I can't believe I managed to climb this tree and then get down again. Just wait until I tell the others. Not even a thank you, thought Tiger. Well done, she said. I'll let you lead the way back. The kitten decided she had had enough. She would teach her brother some humility. I heard some strange sounds as I travelled from the other tree. It was probably foxes. Seeing as you're the biggest and the strongest, you'll be able to fight them off before we're eaten, won't you? Shadow nervously looked around as he whispered, Foxes? After a pause, he added, Actually, I'll let you go first. It'll be a good experience for you. If you're sure, Tiger said. Phase 1 of her plan worked. Now it was time to have some fun. This way, then, she said. But instead of heading to the old barn, the kitten led her brother away from it and back to the large tree. As the silhouette formed in the gloomy night, Tiger suddenly crouched low. Get down, she whispered. There's something ahead. Shadow did as he was told. Tiger crept forward. It's massive, she said in a low voice. Let's go back, Shadow whimpered. Tiger stifled a chuckle and ignored Shadow as she continued to sneak along. As they reached the tree, Tiger proudly declared, This is my tree. Shadow sat, looked side to side at the width, and then at Tiger. You climbed that, he exclaimed. He craned his neck right back and looked up. Despite being unable to see much in the darkness, their cat eyes could appreciate the scale of the plant. It's a lot bigger than the treeling you were in, Tiger boasted. Want to climb it? She asked as she started to claw against the thick bark. Shadow gulped. No, let's go back, he said. Tiger suddenly stopped her clawing and looked about nervously. A gentle rustling sound whooshed through the nearby grass. It almost sounded like whispers on the wind. Feeling confident, Tiger decided it was just the breeze and she would take the advantage of the opportunity to play a trick on her brother. Shh! What was that? I think the foxes are coming. Shadow's worried expression, nervous glances and agitated movement told Tiger that he completely believed her. She would have one last laugh as she led him back to the barn. Copy my careful and silent walking, she whispered. Then crouching low, the kitten performed a silly walk. Each leg was lifted high above her body, moved forward in a big arc, then placed back on the ground only a short distance ahead of where it was originally. Tiger looked back. Shadow was copying. After making good progress through the grass, Tiger said, You go ahead. I'll watch your back. The barn should be just ahead. Okay, said Shadow as he passed his little sister. It was hard for Tiger to not burst out laughing as she watched Shadow do the silly walk, particularly when he added a strange little wiggle of his short stubby tail each time a paw touched the ground. Tiger tried to mimic the movement as she followed. As the grass thinned, the outline of a building could be seen. Tiger excitedly bounded along until she slightly overtook her brother. We're back, she said excitedly. I did it, said Shadow. So near, sneered a slow, weaselly voice, and yet so far. Tiger and Shadow turned sharply to see who spoke. A black nose on the end of a long pointed muzzle emerged from the grass. Large triangular ears sat atop a round furry face. Dark menacing eyes transfixed Tiger's. Just as she thought things could not get any worse, two more of these creatures slunk up either side of the first.